There's probably literally thousands of movies over there, and I could probably go on forever talking about all the different sets and Blu-rays and movies that I own, but I made a promise. I'm gonna talk about them. Here they are. Every single Disney movie that I own from the Disney canon. The Disney Animation Studios canon. First, we have the one that started them all. This is the 2009 Blu-ray, which began the Diamond Edition collection. Before they had the Platinum Editions, and at one point they had the Gold Collection, the Masterpiece Collection, many different sets, but this was when they started picking select few Disney films that would be in rotation every 7 years, be re-released, but then return to the vault, which is something they did up until Disney Plus was announced, and it seemed like the Disney Vault would be going away forever, because they actually had another set right after this called the Disney Signature Collection. However, this should be the last time they ever do something like this, so this should be the only way you can get Snow White on Blu-ray for the time being, and then in the future, if they do any re-releases, I assume it'll either be called the Disney Signature Collection again, or they'll call it something else, but they'll have the same special features. But essentially, this ain't going back in the vault. So I did buy this set as well because they did add a couple new bonus features to it that I was interested in. But this Blu-ray set is actually, to me, one of the best Blu-rays you can buy. There's so many good special features on it. There's a whole extra disc that talks about Disney's life and Hyperion Studios, and a lot of their early shorts are on that set as well. So this is like a must-own Blu-ray if you ask me. I think it's even better than the Signature Collection version. Pinocchio I had to wait quite a while to get again, because Pinocchio, this is actually, I believe, the Target edition with a lenticular case on it. Pinocchio never made it onto the Diamond Edition collection, which is why I waited to buy Pinocchio originally, because I didn't want to get the Platinum Edition if the Diamond Edition was coming, but it didn't get released until finally for the Disney Signature Collection. So I was finally able to get Pinocchio, a great movie of course, and this is a great set as well. I'm not sure if every special feature was carried over from the previous Blu-ray release, because for the first couple Disney movies that were being released on Blu-ray, they were doing 2-disc editions, but eventually they chose to do 1-disc editions, even for the Diamond Collection. So there is a 2-disc Platinum Edition set out there that's apparently more pricey now. I don't know if it has more special features. I could do the research. If someone wants to tell me, that'd be great. Fantasia and Fantasia 2000. So Fantasia was, of course, the one that everybody really wanted to get. They paired it up for Fantasia 2000. Even though this wasn't originally part of any kind of special line, like this is not a Diamond Edition or you know, a Disney Signature Edition. This actually came out in 2010. This was still a limited edition release. This went back into the vault as well, and I'm not really sure why. Some of the special features that were originally announced for it never happened, and this set actually got delayed a few times. Some of the special features are only accessible through an online link. You have to use BD Live, which was a online setup they had for Blu-ray players where you could access special features through the online web. That was that thing where you could like make your own commentaries and connect with people to watch the movie with. It was like chat rooms and such, but a lot of Blu-ray discs don't have that anymore because over time people have learned that consumers didn't really want to use it, plus the functionality wasn't always great. So the special features on here, I don't even know if they're accessible anymore because they were only accessible online. Dumbo, the 70th Anniversary Edition, which this was the first time I saw it again when I bought the Blu-ray. It had been years and it still really held up. This was from 2011, and this set also got delayed twice. You can actually find trailers out there for the Blu-ray release, one that says 2009 and then another one that said 2010, and then they did another one for 2011, and then when it was being released they even added the tag that said 2011. It said finally being released in 2011 because everyone knew it got delayed so much. I remember hopping on the Blu-ray forums and people were complaining all the time that it kept getting delayed and nobody really knew why. But it finally made it, and now it's almost been a decade since it was released, so it's kind of weird to go back to that and think, man, there was a time where I was waiting for Dumbo. There was a time I was waiting for all these movies to hit Blu-ray. This was the first time I actually tried to collect Blu-rays like a crazy man. Back in 2011, I joined the Disney Movie Club and was trying to do their little deal where you can get like 6 movies for around $40, and then after that you had to pay full price. I mean, this was like a 5-year journey. Bambi from 2011, which was, this is the Diamond Edition set, and this was again the first time I had seen the movie in years. This was the first Diamond Edition Blu-ray that didn't have 2 discs. Maybe they weren't selling as well, I don't know. Or maybe they were just getting lazy, or there weren't as many special features. This is the Disney Signature Edition. Some of the Disney Signature Editions I did buy, but I haven't caught up with all of them. They started releasing them pretty sporadically towards the end, and I think they're still technically releasing some more. I think Jungle Book still needs to come out on a Disney Signature set. I think Fantasia needs to be released again. It's all rumored, but I haven't seen anything yet. And like I said, it's so sporadic, and they started releasing them like crazy. It used to be like 2 a year, and then at one point they released like 4 in a couple months because Disney Plus was coming and there wasn't going to be a vault anymore. Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros. These are 2 package films. This actually began the age of package films for Disney. When World War II began, they made these movies, which this was one of the final movies from the Disney canon that was released on Blu-ray. It was taking forever, and the great thing was, when they released it, they actually brought back some of the original content that was edited out for some home video releases. Like, for instance, there's a scene where Goofy is smoking, but some of the different video releases removed the cigarette, but then this release actually brought it back. And they added the disclaimer about, you know, smoking's bad and such, but these are actually unedited. So I assume that's why they waited so long to release it, because maybe they were negotiating if they should release something like that to the public, or should they release it unedited. And I'm glad they released it unedited, and it kind of gives me hope that the other movies that haven't been released yet, there's a reason that they haven't been, perhaps, and maybe they're working on something special and eventually they'll come out. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad and Fun and Fancy Free. This also has The Reluctant Dragon. Kind of a weird set. These movies didn't come out in this order, and also even then there were movies that were made between it, Make Mine Music and Melody Time, which both of those haven't hit Blu-ray yet, and it's been assumed among Disney fanatics and Blu-ray fanatics that they're going to eventually do a Disney Movie Club release of both Make Mine Music, Melody Time on Blu-ray together, but in the meantime I'm not getting the DVDs. I'm going to hold out for the Blu-ray release. There was actually a version of this Blu-ray released where it was just The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad and No Fancy Free. But then there was, at the same time, released this set that had both movies. I don't know why they chose to do it that way. Fun and Fancy Free is a less popular movie than The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, but I don't know why they decided to do 2 different versions of it, because I think this one's even a little more hard to get now, or out of print. I'm not entirely sure, but, you know, I actually remember Fun and Fancy Free as a kid. I actually saw that movie more than I ever saw this one. I didn't see this one until years later, so I was happy that they released those package films. Cinderella, and this is the Diamond Edition set, and they do have a Disney Signature set, but I haven't gotten it yet, and this was released, I believe, in 2012. Alice in Wonderland, and we actually did a discussion on this movie. This has a great special feature on it where it's like an in-video commentary with a lot of Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland fanatics, and actually scholars, people who have studied the works of Lewis Carroll a ton, and some Disney fanatics who and historians. And they did like a whole commentary for this movie, and it's one of the best special features I've ever seen for any movie, and I wish more animation would receive that kind of treatment, especially the old school Disney stuff. Peter Pan, the Diamond Edition set, and once again there is a signature version out there, the Disney signature version that I haven't gotten yet. I have watched this. I don't know if I've really delved into the special features too much, but, you know, great movie, of course, classic. Lady and the Tramp. And I actually saw the live-action remake recently, but it reminded me that I hadn't seen the original movie in quite a while. I don't know if I've ever actually popped in to watch this movie on Blu-ray. I have looked at the special features because some of this stuff looks pretty familiar. And I remember for a while they were doing a thing called Disney Second Screen, which is where you could hook up an iPad or a laptop or an iPhone and have special features playing alongside the movie. It was a real inventive idea, but it never really took off. Which is too bad. And that's kind of the thing with these Blu-rays. It's kind of a fun journey through what different types of things they tried for both packaging, art style, and for special features. As you can see, for a while, the Diamond Editions, they were trying to do these like uniform title screens, titles that were on the side of the cases, but when Snow White was released, you know, they didn't do it. So also a lot of the special features, like Fantasia for instance, has those special features that can only be accessed online, and none of the other Blu-rays are like that. So I don't really know. Disney was always trying different stuff because Blu-ray was still such a new technology when they started releasing these. So over time, as the technology changed, they tried to do different things like second screen and different types of menus and everything. And it's been weird watching them change over time. Sleeping Beauty, which this was released, I believe, around the time Maleficent came out, 2014, and for a while they'd start doing these gold cases for the Diamond Editions because they started coming with digital copies, and not every movie at first had that. They started to do them, I think, for Sleeping Beauty, and then since then every Disney movie has essentially come with a digital copy, and all the signature editions have. That was kind of the point of the signature editions, to release it on Blu-ray again and keep it out on Blu-ray forever, out of the vault, but also have a digital copy. 101 Dalmatians, this really cool silver case, which came with the digital download, and I have popped this in and watched the special features, and they have a good making of documentary on here that explains how the process of putting all the spots on the dogs worked, because I knew that they developed new technology specifically for this movie to make it happen, but I didn't really know exactly how it worked until I watched the documentary, and it's interesting. I'm actually not that big of a fan of 101 Dalmatians, but you know, we have a discussion on that too, so if you go on my channel you can watch that as well. Sword in the Stone, and this is kind of a controversial release. Now, some movies when they were made by Disney back around the 50s and 60s, when widescreen started becoming a thing, they would animate the movie in a 4:3 ratio, but they were made to be scanned as a widescreen movie, from what I understand. And at this point though, there's been debates about which is the proper way to watch a Disney movie animated in 4:3 but zoomed in to be a widescreen movie when it was released. Should they release the 4:3 version or the widescreen zoomed in version, which is technically cutting off some of the footage? It's actually the same way they made Terminator 2. Terminator 2 was actually filmed on a 4:3 ratio, but then James Cameron made it widescreen for the theaters, but he specifically did that so when the VHS release came out and it was pan and scan, they wouldn't have to pan and scan it. They could just go back to the original 4:3 that he filmed it in. So technically that movie was filmed in a different ratio than it was released in, and some versions are even in the ratio he filmed it in. Kind of the same issue with Disney movies. Sword in the Stone was actually released as a widescreen movie, even though there is a 4:3 version of the movie out there that has more content. It technically has stuff on the top and the bottom of the screen that you can't see on this version. You can actually find on the DVD version. And even then, this Blu-ray was even more controversial because they got rid of a lot of the film grain in the picture, and it has a very smooth look to it, but it doesn't look it's not appealing at all. They tried to really clean up the image almost too well, and it looks like a modern Flash animation in a way. It's not the best way to describe it, but basically without the film grain, the movie looks a lot different than I think it's supposed to look, and kind of looks sloppy, especially for a movie like this where the animation wasn't as crisp as some of the other animated movies. So real controversial release. I think there's a whole page on that on the Blu-ray forums if you want to go check them out, because I think people are still livid about it today. Jungle Book, and this is another Diamond Edition set. Like I said, I don't think there's a Disney signature version of this movie yet, which is weird because they have the live-action movie out now, and I think this came out, this came out a whole 2 years before the live-action movie even came out. The Aristocats. I remember seeing this heavily promoted as a Blu-ray release. Some of these Blu-rays didn't receive trailers at all, they would just release them pretty silently, but this one actually got a trailer, and a lot of hype for, you know, the Aristocats of all things, which it's fine, but I didn't think anybody had like an absolute adoration for the Aristocats. Robin Hood, and this is another Disney movie that's been released numerous times on DVD, VHS, and it finally hit Blu-ray. And I think this did the same thing where I'm not sure if this was originally meant to be a widescreen movie. I think it was animated in 4:3. It was zoomed in for theaters, and I think this release is the widescreen zoomed in version. Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. And this is just that movie that has a bunch of short films that had been previously made, but then they made it into one big movie, and I think they added new content. There was quite a wait for this movie to finally be released on Blu-ray. I think even, yeah, 2013, and the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie came out before this movie was released on Blu-ray, and the Winnie the Pooh movie even had a Blu-ray release long before this one did, so I don't know why they waited so long on this one. The Rescuers and The Rescuers Down Under. And The Rescuers I haven't seen in years, but I've seen The Rescuers Down Under numerous times since buying this set, and it is a great movie, part of the Disney Renaissance, and honestly, as everyone has said before, it's highly underrated, and definitely deserves to be considered part of the Disney Renaissance, even if it didn't make nearly as much money as the other ones. The Fox and the Hound, which this came with The Fox and the Hound too, and some of these movies that weren't part of the Diamond Collection, they would just release their direct-to-video sequels with the original movie, and it would be on one disc. Some people were kind of mad about that. I didn't care too much because I'm trying to, collect all the direct-to-video stuff on Blu-ray anyway, so it's kind of nice that some of these sets just had the movies included. The Diamond Editions don't, though. The Diamond Edition would be released on Blu-ray, and then a few months later they would release the sequels on separate Blu-rays. And I've tried to collect those as much as I could, but those ones also went back into the vault. I'm not really sure why. It almost seems like they're treating the sequels to the very exclusive Diamond Edition classic Disney films, some of the, like, their 10 greatest animated films, and then the direct-to-video sequels are getting the same treatment in a way. It's kind of weird. Fox and the Hound 2 I've never watched, but I have Fox and the Hound. This set kind of sucks because there's not really any special features on the Blu-ray, but if you pop into DVDs, they have their own special features, but they weren't carried over to the Blu-ray for some reasons. And with The Great Mouse Detective, as you can tell, we skipped the Black Cauldron because it has not been released on Blu-ray, and I am under the assumption that the reason it hasn't hit Blu-ray yet is because they are planning it as a Disney Movie Club exclusive that will hopefully have a rough cut of the original version of the movie before the changes were made and before some of the stuff was slashed out, very famously done by Jeffrey Katzenberg. I'm not sure if that version exists, but I want to believe it does. I really want to believe that's why they haven't released on Blu-ray yet, because maybe they're actually going to do something with it. But who knows? In the meantime, Great Mouse Detective. And once again, a lot of people say the Disney Renaissance started with The Little Mermaid. To me, though, I think it started with The Great Mouse Detective because it was right after the pretty bad Black Cauldron movie that was pretty disliked by everybody. And then this movie came out, and to me, it's like a complete 180. It's a much better movie. Not nearly as good as some of the other stuff from the Renaissance, but I think that is the true beginning of their Renaissance period. And I think Oliver and Company deserves to be part of that too. A lot of people often don't remember this movie, or they don't like it too much, and I'm a little disappointed by this release. Actually, it kind of did what Sword in the Stone did, where it cleaned up too much and it didn't really keep the film grain intact, but still, this is one of my favorite Disney movies. I really think this is very underrated. I get why people have issues with it, and it's probably not as good as the other stuff from the Renaissance, and it has some pacing issues, but the music's great, the characters are great. I like that it's a retelling of Oliver, the Oliver Twist story, but with animals, and they make some changes, but I think they were serviceable changes. The Little Mermaid, which is one of my favorite Disney films, and what's considered the beginning of the Renaissance, I guess, but great movie still. Holds up. I saw this in theaters recently, and I really do love it. It's a Diamond Edition because, of course, it is. As you can see, I kind of went from 1967 all the way to 1989, and there was no other Diamond Editions because Disney was kind of in a rut at that point after Disney himself had passed away, and Little Mermaid began to pick things up again, and then they had Tale as Old as Time, Beauty and the Beast. This is a great set for a great movie, and the DVD does have the rough animation version that was shown at the New York Film Festival, the one with the unfinished animation. I might like other ones a little more, like Little Mermaid or Aladdin or Zootopia, but this probably is about as perfect as you can get. I also do have the Disney signature version of the movie, which, of course, any Blu-ray release of this movie I will get because it's great. I know you've seen it, but it's great. Aladdin. And this is another one that it took quite quite a while for it to finally hit Blu-ray. This is the Diamond Edition version, and this was released as late as 2015, which is crazy. They started the Diamond Edition sets in 2009, and before that, the first Disney movie released on Blu-ray was in 2006, I believe, so it almost took an entire decade of Blu-ray for Aladdin to finally hit Blu-ray. I believe once Robin Williams passed away, I think they delayed the release again because I think they wanted to add something special to it since he had passed, and I'm glad it finally hit Blu-ray, but my god, it took way too long for what is one of the best Disney movies. Lion King, this is the Diamond Edition version. This was the one that was released right after it was released in 3D, and there is a 3D Blu-ray out there. I never got it, but it's the Lion King. I mean, I'm not gonna, you know what the Lion King is, and you love it. And of course, it's a Diamond Edition, so it's got great special features. And of course, I went and got the signature version too because it's a great movie. Pocahontas, I haven't seen this in years, and I don't know when I'll ever get back to it. Maybe if they do a live-action remake, which I doubt, but that would be a reason to watch it again. Hunchback of Notre Dame, and to me another one of those really underrated Disney movies. I love this. This is up there like my top 10. Such a beautiful movie with a lot of heart to it, a lot of really good songs, and it's got some of the darkest aspects you'll find in a Disney movie. Like, they didn't do the Hunchback of Notre Dame justice, I guess you would say, classic sense of the term, but it really did as much as I think a Disney movie could have done at the time. And even today, I don't know if they could really make any more changes to it. Like, this is probably about as far as you can get with a story like that. Hercules, they just announced that they are working on a live-action remake of this, and I'm gonna do it now. I'm just gonna bet everyone out there, I don't know how much money, $500, who knows. Lizzo will be the muse. She'll be one of the muses for sure. I'm already calling it now. You know what? I heard they announced the live-action remake while I was watching Thor Ragnarok. And while watching Thor Ragnarok, I was thinking, who could do Hercules justice? Because it's such a weird movie, and it turned out amazing. Like, I think this movie's actually amazing. I love this movie. But everything in it is very weird. It's weird that this movie even works. It shouldn't. It shouldn't be a good movie. So I was like, how could they make this in live action form? Because you'd have to have all that stuff almost happen accidentally again. I don't think you could synthetically make this happen. Well, while watching Thor Ragnarok, I was like, Taika Waititi probably could do it, because he wouldn't take the mythology stuff too seriously, and he'd keep up the silly tone. And I was like, who can they cast as Meg and Hercules? And I was like, oh, they could literally hire Chris Hemsworth to be Hercules, and they could hire Tessa Thompson to be Meg, and that would be kind of perfect. And bring back Danny DeVito to just play Phil, and you got a movie. Mulan, and they have a live-action movie of this coming out, but of course it got delayed. And I'm excited for it. I do like the original Mulan to a point, but the stuff that I've seen from the trailers for the new remake, or adaptation, or reimagining, I guess you want to call it, I think it looks a lot more interesting, and it looks a lot more epic. Tarzan, we did a discussion on this, and I kind of talked about how I thought 2D animation went away way too fast, and based on this movie, it's like they were still advancing the art form. It is a good movie. It gets a little wonky by the third act, but, you know, go watch our discussion. Dinosaur. I've still never watched this movie. This was one of the first movies released on Blu-ray from the Disney animation canon, and I kind of assume the reason why is because when a movie is made in a computer animated movie, it is rendered in the computer then. You can actually render the movie right onto a disc, is how I hear they do it for like Pixar movies. They don't take like the film elements and scan them and then put them on a disc. No, they just take the computer files and just render them onto a disc. And Dinosaur, I think, was one of the first just because it was made in the computer entirely, so it was probably easy to put on a disc. And the movie made money at the time, but for the most part it's been forgotten up until this point, and even I've never seen it. Emperor's New Groove and Kronk's New Groove, the direct-to-video sequel I've never seen. A lot of people do love this movie nowadays. I think my generation has kind of kept the movie part of the like lexicon of internet memes and culture. I know people were disappointed that the movie that they were working on didn't happen and they ended up making this instead, but given that it's been 20 years now, I think we should start looking at the movie for what it is. And I think it's great. I liked it at the time, I still do, and I'm glad that, you know, I wouldn't even call it underrated anymore because people have kept it alive. This movie's okay. I didn't see it as a kid, but did watch it when I finally got the Blu-ray, and it's okay, but it's not like, I can see why it wasn't a big deal when it was released. Lilo and Stitch, great movie. This was like the last great Disney movie for quite a few years at the time. Treasure Planet, I did finally watch this movie when it was released on Blu-ray. When it came out, when I was a kid, I saw the trailers for it and I had like zero interest in the movie. It just was not my kind of movie at all. But I finally watched it and it's really enjoyable. Like, I get why this movie failed too, but come on, it was like, I think people need to give this a second watch because I have a lot of fun watching this movie. Brother Bear, funnily enough, this is the lowest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes, which is weird because you would assume Chicken Little or Home on the Range or something like that would be lower, but nope, it's Brother Bear. Brother Bear is the lowest, which I saw this in theaters and I remember liking it. I still remember kind of thinking it's okay from the last time I'd seen it. I think this really represents just where the company was at the time. There is one person I've ever heard who really likes this movie, and I've never actually seen it, so I don't want to crap on the movie. I'm too scared to watch it, is the thing. But Tony Goldmark, some jerk with a camera, great YouTuber. He likes this movie. Kind of shocking coming from him because he's a big Disney fan that he would like Home on the Range, so that's the one glimmer of hope for me. I'm like, maybe there is something to this movie, because if he likes it, there has to be something. Chicken Little. I loved this movie as a kid, and I haven't seen it since I was a kid, and every time I think back to the movie, I think everything I remember about the movie seems kind of stupid, so I am not up for watching this again. It's going to come up on our discussion eventually, and yeah, I don't know about that. This to me is the actual most underrated Disney film. What I consider the beginning of their second renaissance, and the one that I think I can most highly recommend for people who probably most likely haven't seen it. This is an extraordinary movie. Time travel elements in it, really great fun characters. Yeah, they could have fixed some things in the story department, maybe made things tighter in some areas, expanded on things in other areas, but still super good. I have watched this movie many times, and I remember I didn't see it in theaters, but when I finally did watch it, I was thinking, God, I can't believe actually how good this movie is, because this was during a time when Pixar was really taking over, and they were kind of known for releasing the better movies. But watching this, I was like, man, this really should have been a Pixar movie, because, I mean, even then, Pixar probably could have improved a lot of aspects of it, but it really shows where the Disney company was headed. And if you watch, there's a final quote in this movie from Walt Disney himself, and it's a great ending to the movie. And to me, that is like the moment that Disney began their, you know, uphill swing when they started the second renaissance. Right after Chicken Little, they released this, and it ended with that quote, and the movies only started kind of getting better from there. Bolt, which was highly publicized at the time, like they did a crazy promotional campaign for this movie, and I didn't see it till a couple years later, and yeah, it's okay. You know, it's kind of what I expected, and it's a fun movie, but it's not too memorable. In a way, I would consider this to be like, of the new Renaissance age, I would consider this like the Oliver and Company of the new Renaissance, where for the most part people seem to have forgotten it, but it's not really a bad movie. It's just, you know, people just tend to forget about it. Princess and the Frog. My girlfriend really likes this movie. We're actually going to be doing a discussion on it soon. And I like it. I didn't like it nearly as much as I was hoping, and I think my issue with it is that they do turn the characters into frogs too soon, and they stay frogs for a little too long, and I think a lot of issues start coming up around that part of the movie. We'll talk about it more in the discussion, but I wish this could have been a little better, and I think there are some other reasons that this movie wasn't as big of a success as it was at the box office as some of their later movies. And sadly, you know, this was the big return to 2D animation, but since it didn't do too well, they kind of gave up on it, but it was groundbreaking. It definitely is a groundbreaking movie. Has a great villain in it, and the characters are good. They are good characters. I just wish the story was a little better. Tangle's story is a little better, and I like this movie as well. I saw this in theaters when they did a re-release of it, and you know, but once again, I don't think it's nearly as good as some of the later stuff. I don't really know why Disney chose to make another Winnie the Pooh movie with a higher budget and release it in theaters as part of the canon. I mean, it's literally how long is this movie? It's really short. It's, I think, under an hour and a half. I think it might be around like 70 minutes. So why they decided to release an incredibly short movie in theaters to compete against the Deathly Hallows Part 2, I don't know why, but they have two shorts, essentially, in this movie. The movie's like split into two different stories. And both of them are very funny, and they're very well done, and the animation looks very good. It's just too bad that they were, for some reason, putting all of their 2D animation and marketing on this movie, and then when it failed, they're like, let's throw away 2D animation. I don't know why. That was a bad idea. It almost seems like you set yourself up to fail. Wreck-It Ralph. And this was the movie that finally brought so many different video game characters together, and it had them together for about 5 minutes. it was kind of a letdown for that part of it, because that was what was so heavily promoted. But the story itself is really good, and I like this movie a lot. But their next movie, Frozen, which I know there's been kind of a Frozen backlash in the last couple of years, but I think this is one of Disney's best. I freaking love this movie. I've watched this movie a lot, and definitely, to me, deserves all the praise that it gets. There's so much Frozen memorabilia and TV specials, and now there's even a sequel, but I'm like, it deserves it. This movie's great. I'm glad we got a lot more Frozen stuff afterwards. Unfortunately, a lot of the Frozen stuff we got afterwards wasn't as good as the first movie, but you know, the first movie, I have watched that movie like yearly since it's been released. It's kind of become my like January movie. Big Hero 6, which was Disney's superhero movie that's based on a Marvel comic in a way. This movie's really cool. I like the locations, and unfortunately I haven't watched it since it was in theaters, but I definitely would like to give it another watch. This, to me, is one of the best Disney movies ever made. This movie is so funny and so good. It's like a buddy cop movie, basically, but with like some of the best characters. Like the main characters themselves, Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps, to me are like the best Disney characters ever made. Like, they are so well put together and such a funny duo, and God, I wish they would just do multiple sequels to this movie, because why has Disney just let this sit dormant for the last 4 years? I mean, come on, make us. I heard they were making like a Zootopia land in one of the Disney parks. Why not make like a Zootopia TV series? Why not make more movies? I want to see more of these characters. Moana is very incredibly good too. I love the music of this movie, the animation style. This is a movie where watching it, I could picture it actually being a 2D animated film if they would have gone that route, but it still works very effective in 3D animation, and yeah, I've popped this movie in more than once, so highly recommend that. And Ralph Breaks the Internet, which I guess a lot of people didn't like this sequel, but I still think this is superior to the original film and one of the best Disney films in recent years, and incredibly funny. Like, it's one of those stories that it's kind of like a South Park episode where just like one thing happens and then this happens and then this happens, and it's just like every second they're being thrown into another corner, and it's like they get out of the corner in the craziest way. And the ending is kind of sad. Like, it's a very touching, heartbreaking, but very well put together ending. Frozen 2, which I don't own. I never bought it. I haven't bought it yet. I will buy it eventually, but you know, it's just been released recently, and you know, during this pandemic I just haven't really gotten to buying it, but I will eventually. But as you can remember maybe from my review of the film and my discussion I did on the movie, I didn't really like the sequel at all. I'd like to watch it again just to see, you know, if there was something I missed, because a lot of people have defended the movie saying that they really like it, but I'm still having a hard time finding out people's like specific reasoning for liking the movie. Some people say they like the songs, but I thought the songs were quite bland compared to the first movie, so I'll like to give it another watch sometime. But that is my Disney collection. I think some of my asides maybe went a little long and I kind of was blabbering at times, but I hope you had fun watching this video and discovering the different Disney movies I own. I'll probably do Pixar eventually, but there's a few more Pixar Blu-rays I want to get. Not the movies, but some of their TV specials and short film packages. And yeah, eventually I'll be doing some other Blu-ray collection videos because they're fun. It gives me a chance to talk about a lot of movies that I normally have to make an entire video about, which is great. But, you know, sometimes I just want to talk about one little thing from a movie, so it's like, gives me a chance to do it. If you like this video, you know, give it a like, give it a comment. I'd really appreciate it. I love interacting with you in the comments, and it's been great that you guys have been enjoying these. And if you want to see more stuff like this, or you're enjoying it, give me a subscription. And use that bell icon, because the bell icon is a lifesaver. For me anyway. And yeah, stay tuned. We got lots of stuff coming up. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all my Patreon supporters. For only $7, you can get your own monthly movie review. Ask me to review anything I haven't already. There's also other perks like blogs, exclusive videos, and early access. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thanks so much for watching this video.